Nintendo has a long history of thinking outside the box. Known as the brand throughout the 90s that creates things that only Nintendo can. They are constantly revolutionizing the gaming industry and pushing technological boundaries, which we even see today in examples like the Nintendo Switch, a console that is both able to be docked and taken on the go. There are, however, downsides to a company that is addicted to innovation. And in today's video, we will be looking at one of these cons, as we explore one of Nintendo's strangest accessories for the Nintendo 64. In 1984, Soviet software engineer Alexei Pajitnov created a game that would take the world by storm. He derived the name from the Greek numerical prefix of tetra, as all pieces in the game contained 4 blocks. He combined this with his favorite sport, tennis, to come up with the name Tetris. In 1988, Nintendo had a huge history with rights disputes and lawsuits in regards to Tetris, leaving Atari with thousands of unsellable copies of the game flooding their warehouses. But that will be a video for another time. In 1990, Nintendo used this concept to come out with the hit title Dr. Mario for the NES, which essentially carried over the same gameplay but with some minor tweaks. In this title, it would be the classic falling brick and block matching puzzle gameplay, except now you are playing with characters from the Mario franchise, and the goal being to defeat viruses by matching the correct pills. Needing an awesome puzzle game for the Nintendo 64, Nintendo figured they would release Tetris again, but this time it would be different. This time they were going to sprinkle some trademark Nintendo innovation onto the concept, introducing Tetris 64. Announced in 1997 during Nintendo's Space World Convention alongside Ocarina of Time. Tetris 64 provided absolutely no tweaks to the original formula whatsoever, nor did it attempt to create any unique mechanics. It did, however, have a gimmick. The Nintendo 64 biosensor, licensed by Nintendo from a company called Sita. Plug this accessory into your controller, then attach the clip to your earlobe so the Nintendo 64 can read your pulse. What would the game do with this information? It would simply lower the difficulty if it saw your pulse rising. It did this by changing the speed of the game, so the blocks would fall at a more manageable pace. A neat feature of this title was that it also had a reverse mode. The game would begin speeding up the faster your heart rate was, which I guess just accelerated your demise. It's a cool concept in a way, where you would have to try to calm yourself down, take deep breaths while playing the game, but I can also imagine the gimmick getting pretty old pretty quickly. The other great thing is that this game supported up to 4 friends multiplayer. You could play without the biosensor attached, thankfully. So you didn't need to have your friends pick up 4 copies of the title in order to get the accessories. Though I laugh thinking about walking into a living room full of people with Nintendo 64 controllers being wired to a clip on people's ears. The game came bundled with the biosensor, thankfully, as it never saw any other releases that made use of this accessory. The strangest part about this title is that it only released in Japan, and that the release was only in English. As you can probably tell by this point, not a lot of things about this title made a whole lot of sense. What I would have given to be a fly on the wall during the pitch meeting for this product. Now let's examine how this accessory actually functioned. It's a heart rate monitor. A very simplistic way to explain this is, the clip emits a light source and has a reflector. When our heart beats, it creates a pressure wave of blood that travels throughout our body. If there is no pulse, the amount of light that is reflected will be constant. However, if there is a pulse, that means the blood is getting pushed around our body, and thus more light gets absorbed. If there's more blood, this means less light gets reflected. This change in the reflected light amount is detected by the sensor and used to calculate the frequency of this pulse wave, giving us a result. In our N64 biosensor's case, when we look into the code, we can actually see it was really straightforward. The communication log between Tetris 64 and the biosensor shows that the game doesn't even write to the controller expansion port. It just reads the code at a constant interval. The code is either 0x03 between heartbeats, or 0x00 when there is a pulse detected. Then a simple calculation is done. Nintendo has always had a strange fascination with health and fitness titles. The Nintendo GameCube did not feature any first-party sensor accessories, but it did have a pedometer to count the number of steps you had taken for a Japanese pilgrimage simulation game named Hoshin no Dojo, but nothing using the heart rate monitor concept. The next time Nintendo would pick the biosensor concept up again was for the Wii Vitality Sensor, which was announced in 2009 by Satoru Iwata. But without any software to show its capabilities, it left many journalists speculating how it could potentially be used. The product looked very uncomfortable, as it would clip onto your one hand, meaning you'd be essentially limiting the number of games this could work with, as there would be single-handed control requirements. This seemed to be less practical than the earlobe clip approach we saw for the 64. At E3 2010, it was not shown off, and a Nintendo spokesperson had mentioned that they were not ready to reveal more about the Vitality Sensor at this current time. Fast forward to July 5, 2013, the Vitality Sensor had been canceled, with Satoru Iwata telling investors that they could not get the product to work correctly in 100% of the cases. He stated that the product only was able to work with 90% of people during their trials, with 10% of people just not being able to get a reading with the product as everyone's body is different. Iwata stated, he'd still love to make the Vitality Sensor a reality if technology enhancements allow, but thus far, testing renders it insufficient as a commercial product. It's really nice to see that Nintendo kept to its promise of releasing quality-tested products for the Wii. Nowadays, the Switch uses the same technology in games like Ring Fit Adventure, where the Joy-Con has a sensor that will read infrared light reflections on the player's finger. The Joy-Cons also conveniently have an accelerometer and gyroscope, which can be used for motion tracking. It really goes to show how far Nintendo has taken these ideas and developed them. It's a much better implementation of the technology, being built into the controller to begin with. This allows games to take advantage of it, opposed to it being an awkward accessory that was shipped later. So next time you are thinking about a cool piece of new technology, just remember that it could possibly have its roots in an unsuccessful idea from several decades ago. That's been it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and to everyone who has been leaving such positive comments and subscribing to the channel. It really makes my day. Catch you all in the next one.